We're going to be looking at, in this section, we've got three speakers talking about technology applications within their own specialist areas around work, the workplace, and the workers. First up, on leveraging experiences in a hybrid world. It's one of the great thinkers and change makers in FM in recent years, always worth a listen to. The immediate past chair of IFMA's Board of Directors, Chief Strategy Officer of Planon, Peter Ankerstjerne.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. You can hear me now? Seems so. All right. Well, thanks for inviting me back. I think that's the third time I'm here, so it's always a pleasure to be back and be part of the agenda, but also listen in and get some inspiration yourself in terms of where the future is heading and what we also need to be aware of. I will talk about workplace experience through the lens of hybrid work, but also through the lens of technology, of course, because that's sort of the headline of this entire conference. So that's what I'm focusing on. But I just sort of dragging on or building on what Lionel Podges was saying earlier. I also want to give a little bit of insight in terms of how I see the world of FM developing. And it's been a fascinating journey over the last 40 years, and there have really been some big shifts defining our industry. From sort of the engineering foundation and then building on top of that the service management mindset that came into the industry, especially through service outsourcing, corporate real estate integration through FM, the workplace experience, especially brought on by some of the co-working companies like Industrious and WeWork and these types of companies that sort of changed the mentality around workplace experience and community work. And now we're in the middle of what I call the technology breakthrough. And it's not like we haven't had technology during the early stages of the development, but now we're just in the middle of a breakthrough where technology is defining what facility management is and what we will be in the future. And then what is already happening is, of course, the next big shift, also enabled by technology, and that's, of course, the sustainable future and the whole work around ESG, SDGs, reporting standards, and that type of thing. This is, of course, linked into the development of the office. I know it's only 25% of the workforce that is knowledge workers, but it is a very important part of what we do because even production manufacturing facilities do also have offices. So it is an area that sort of drives developments, even in some of the areas like healthcare, manufacturing, and so on. A lot of companies today are talking about activity-based offices or activity-based working, and that's still relevant, of course, but it's been around for 30 years now. I think the next big shift that we're looking into, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute, is what I will call the experienced-based office. People are coming to the office for other reasons than only being productive, because we can be that anywhere now. And we as facility managers need to sort of stage that experience, make it attractive for people to come to the office because they no longer need to. Some companies are mandating it, but in general, people can be at least as productive, if not more, for some special areas if they're working from home. So when we want to attract them into the office, the value proposition that we provide has to be different than it was before. In the past, every office development was centered around making workers more productive. That has changed now. It's not really about productivity when you bring people into the office. It's also about productivity, but it's even more so about collaboration, about learning, about socializing, about culture, some of these aspects. And that's something we need to grapple with as we move forward. The workplace is, of course, changing. It's no longer just the office or whatever. It's now the office, home, third places or public places, and it's also co-working that is increasingly becoming part of the mix of office environments and the real estate portfolio that we are managing. And it's also that link between the digital workplace and the physical workplace that is diminishing or blurring as we move into this. And this is going to be very situational determined. It's going to change by day, week, month, and so on. So that level of flexibility and working with ultra flexibility is probably one of our biggest challenges as facility managers going forward. So hybrid is here to stay. It's now the normal. Most companies, if not all companies, are dealing with hybrid. There are different ways of doing that, but all companies are dealing with some kind of a hybrid setup. COVID forced our employers, our organizations to sort of rethink the link between the workforce, the workplace, and what we do, work. And it's never been 100% utilization. I think at best before COVID, we were probably hovering around 50-55% utilization. Today, and there are various reports out, but it seems to be 30% plus utilization of the workplaces. So there seems to be a massive shifts also happening in terms of making our space more fit for purpose. Getting rid of access space and then changing some of the space that we have to be more sort of accommodating to the new style of work that we're working with, especially around hybrid. So rethinking the purpose of the workplace is happening in a lot of organizations, and understanding how this drives some of the design thinking in terms of how to construct or move into new office environments. What is it that we have to think about? And how can technology enable that setup? So working with some of these aspects, all of them has to be enhanced by technology, and technology is really the difference now than it was 10 years ago, because there's not a lot of these thoughts that are new. I think a lot of this has been working. We've been working with this for the past, 5-10 years in the industry. But what has really changed is the technology, that the technology is now enabling this change that we are seeing in the workplace. So the notion of work is changing. Remote work has been proven successful. Employees are demanding greater flexibility. Businesses see an opportunity to reduce the footprint, and sustainability is top of mind. And that's not only for businesses, that's also for us employees, that we need to be part of all these aspects and need to understand how this worked. And organizations are still struggling to find the right balance on how you work with all these aspects in this new world of work. You can sort of put it on a continuum, and this is, and I do apologize, this is a couple of years old. You can see that on the Twitter CEO, and Twitter is a funny example of how this changes and how quick this can change, I suppose. From being, remote first and being fully flexible, come to the office whenever you feel like it type of approach, then Mr. Musk takes over, and it's now mandatory to be at the office for a lot of Twitter employees. So they've sort of changed that continuum. Every organization has to find their own place in the continuum, whether they want to be an office first mentality. Even some organizations are saying, butts and seats, we want everybody at the office. We have invested in this real estate. We want to use it to the fullest, and they believe that they cannot drive culture without having people in the office. To the completely other side of the spectrum, where it's fully remote. There are organizations now that are saying we don't even need offices. We just need to connect people virtually in this new world, and then we have a couple of conferences during the year. We'll bring people together to see each other, but that's it. We don't need to own or lease any real estate to run our business. So every organization has to figure out where they are on this continuum, and that choice really drives a lot of decision in terms of how you want to set up your workplace, your technology, and the experience that it drives. IFMA is, last month we launched the Experts Assessment Volume 2, where some of the key findings was that 72% of the so-called subject matter experts, and we invited more than 700 subject matter experts to participate in an online Delphi study where you can change your answer and you can discuss things online as part of the survey. These subject matter experts were within sustainability, IT, and real estate and architecture. So it's not a representative. It's not a representative of the industry. It's sort of subject matter expert input. But it's kind of still interesting to sort of see the results from that. 72% of these experts still see offices as vehicles for culture and brand development. 75% envisage platforms that create fit-for-purpose apps will be ubiquitous using touch, voice, and gesture to ensure the consistent user experience. And 92% expect digital tools and at-home work points to be the most important management asset and amenity that we work with. This study is from Microsoft, came out in September, and that's really, I think, gives the explanation of why people actually come to the office. And people come to the office for people. We come to the office, by and large, to meet each other, to socialize. Gallup, a couple of years ago, did a very famous study to say that the primary driver of engagement, of employee engagement, is having a best friend at work. That was the number one driver, and I think it's supported by the study by Microsoft. And it's generational, that younger generation, especially Gen Zs and millennials, have a higher tendency to come to the office to socialize, to be with their friends and their team. That diminishes a little bit over time when you get into the Gen Xers and the boomers. And then, as a lot of leaders tend to think that people come to the office to be close to the leadership, to be close to their direct leader, and see the executive team, that's definitely still important, but it's a way lower priority than actually just being part of the team and meeting your friends at work. Of course, hybrid is interesting, it's good, it's changing the world of work as we know it, but it's not the answer to everything. And there are challenges around hybrid work that we also need to work with. Of course, around dynamic space planning and space efficiency. How can you work with this when you don't really know how many is going to be at the office at any given point in time? And how can you optimize your space also in terms of cost and energy consumption, especially now that that's coming around the corner with some of the reporting standards that are coming out now? That can we actually close offices or floors or even sites when there's only a certain amount of people coming to work on a given day, and how quickly can we get access to that information? Also, as we talked about this morning, about data to actually make decisions on it on the fly quickly in terms of pulling people together. Nobody wants to go on an office where there's only two people sitting and they're sitting at opposite sides of the building. We all want to be in that space where we can meet each other, especially as the research showed that is actually what drives engagement and experience for that. So that's something we need to find solutions for. Also, how do we deal with the service providers? How can we make sure that our service providers and the cost of services, for example, cleaning, catering, and so on, flex with the audience, the people who are in the building? Not a lot of service contracts are built in that way currently, and that's something also we need to find answers to. And then finally, workplace design. How can we then make a workplace design that is accommodating this new hybrid work, both in terms of home working and making sure that we also take that responsibility of people working appropriately and in a safe and conducive manner when they're working at home, but also when they're at the office, and that gives that experience we're talking about here. So these are some of the questions. I don't have answers to them. I think technology is part of the answer, but it's certainly not the only answer. But then using digital to enhance workplace productivity, and I won't go through this exhaustive list, but these are some of the benefits of digitalization in a hybrid work environment. More effective use of space, provide sustainable, safe, and healthy workplaces, and be able to document that, reduce the operational cost, and the operational cost really gets reduced. It's not only about providing the data and the analytics to make decisions on, that is important. But real savings comes when you automate things, when you automate the work processes. That's where the savings comes. The analytics is great because they help us to make decisions, but there's not a lot of savings coming directly from the analytics as such. And then optimize the workplace experience and engagement via data. Those are some of the headlines for this. So we need all of us to adapt to a mobile-first mindset. Every one of us and all of our employees are having mobile phones as their primary means of communication. So we need to make sure that every relevant data for the employees is available via mobile. A lot of us that are working on hybrid now will sit Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on where we sit, and plan our week and decide when we're going to be at the office, or month, when we're going to go to the office and we're not. And there's a lot of factors that are driving some of that mindset. For example, are my colleagues going to be there? Is my teams going to be there? Is my leader going to be there? What are they serving in the canteen? These types of questions may seem mundane, but they're actually important in order to make decisions. Should I go in on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday? Because nobody really comes in on Mondays and Fridays anymore. So that's what we need to work with as facility managers, and that's the level of technology that we need to work with. And it's a trade-off, and it's not easy, because a lot of this is location-based. We need to understand where you are in order to provide you with the right information at your fingertips in terms of occupancy detection, find my colleague, automation, wayfinding if you don't come to the workplace that often and it's a big campus, resource booking, or whatever it is that you're doing. And it's a trade-off. We need people to opt in to do that. GDPR rules prevents us from just applying it. People need to voluntarily opt in, and they need to see the trade-off for it. They need to trust us that we treat this data responsibly, but also they need to make sure that there's a benefit for them to give up that data. And then providing that seamless work experience regardless of where you are, where you work. It's going to be the same. Also from your various sort of areas within your portfolio of buildings, it should be the same workplace experience and technology impression you get when you work with this. And this, of course, sharing that data with occupants in terms of live occupancy data. What is the room temperature, indoor air quality? What is the frequency of room bookings? These types of things. Our experience is that employees in general are actually really interested to see that. A lot of it is interesting. It's not that they do a lot with that data, but it is part of also opening up and become more transparent in terms of what we do and allowing them to find their favorite spots and sort of supporting them in doing their best work. So thinking hybrid work and digital into the office design is critical now. We've got a lot of data that we can now share with the architects, and we can now begin to understand, especially for that particular client. So when they're creating new office spaces, we can begin to apply some of that data in terms of the office space. And what I particularly like, and not a lot of people have done that, I know it's a little sort of funny, little bottom picture here, but when you're sitting, a lot of our offices are designed where you have square tables and you have a big screen at the end, so everybody's looking like this into the screen. Imagine you can design your offices that you are at par, at that level, eye level, with the people that are dialing in. That's where you create the seamless experience between those who are working remotely and those who are working in the office. And that's, I think, what we need to do. So moving quickly from digital to smart, we are seeing a lot of the old sort of independent, disparate systems and controls, no data sharing. 90% of the world looks like this at the moment. But what we're now also seeing, especially as we integrate, as Lionel and Nigel were saying earlier, is that we are seeing new central building system, integrated system, when you share data and you optimize the performance and you use IoT, digital twins, and BIM. You have that single IP-based network that provides the platform, and you connect to these systems. That's where you really create value throughout the value chain of and the life cycle of the building. And you can optimize this. And I'm just going to go quickly through this because this is just shown, this is the same sort of point that I'm making, but shown in a different way. These are the individual workplace solutions, point solutions that you're connecting into your HR systems or into your ERP systems and into your, and there are abundance of these if you really want to go deep into this area. There is an argument to be made in terms of integrating them into one platform and then making them cloud enabled, to really drive that data and that business intelligence out of there that really drives benefit from the organization. So in making hybrid work, we need to collaborate between the HR, the IT, and the FM teams. We need to connect the work with the workforce and the workplace in order to do that. And I think facility managers have a unique opportunity to really drive that transformation within the workplace. And I apologize for this busy slide, but this is just getting some more sort of insight in terms of what are these changing priorities and how do we do this from attendance-based to outcome-based. How do we enable our management to deal with hybrid work? Because it's a different management style than when you have people in the line of sight. And how do you then deal with location and cost centers to a more human-centered sort of workplace setup when people are there? So optimizing the experience between remote and in-office work is fundamental. Not everyone can, will, or should, is my last slide, Martin, should return to the office. But of course, those who want to work from the office in either a structured hybrid way or in a fully hybrid way or who want to be there on a day-to-day level, of course they should be able to do that. The frictionless tech-enabled workplace will ensure continuity and fluidity between in-office work and remote work, level the playing field, and offer mobile-first tools to really make sure that the employees can make the right decision of whether to come to work and what are they going to do when they are at work. That's it. Thank you so much for your attention.